A very warm and pleasant good morning to all my dear students. Today we will continue Chapter 8 Habitat of Living Things. I hope you have read the chapter till where I discussed. Let's take a quick recap what we have studied in the previous class. In the previous class, we studied about what is habitat, what is adaptation, and what are the different types of habitat, and why do different animals have different habitat. So, habitat is the place where animals or living organisms live, and adaptation is the process by which living beings develop special features so as to adjust to their specific environment. As you all know, animals need food, water, and shelter to survive. And every animal has its own habitat, and different animals have different adaptative features. For example, if you take an example of camel, who is able to well adapted to live in desert because of the following features, where there is scarcity of water and weather is very hot. Camel is able to live without food and water for many days. And today we will discuss about the adaptative features of camel and desert plants, for example, cacti. Also, we discussed that habitat where an organism live has two components, biotic and abiotic component. Biotic are the living components, that is plant and animal, and abiotic are the non-living components, that is rocks, water, air and soil. Now let's discuss the adaptative features of camel. Camel can live without food and water for many days. How? Because it has a hump on its back which stores fat, and this helps them to provide food energy. This helps them to provide energy, and they can live without food and water for many days. Secondly, they have a big flat feet. We can say padded feet, which helps them to walk on the sand without sinking into it. And camel has also long eyelashes that keep the sand from storms and glaring sun from camel eyes. So this is how camel is well adapted to desert habitat. Camel has a thick skin and scanty fur. Scanty fur. Scanty fur to prevent the loss of water. It also excreted concentrated urine. It stored water by drinking large quantity of water at a time. As I already told you, it has a hump on its back that store fat, which provide them energy and water. And lastly, camels have a large and padded sole, which helps them to walk comfortably in sand without sinking into it. Now, some other animals are there like desert rats, lizards, and snakes. How do they stay in desert? During day, the climate is very hot, and during night, the climate is very cool. So, what these animals do? During the daytime, they stay in their burrows in order to avoid extreme heat, but they become active at night. So these animals, those who become active at night when the climate is cool, especially in desert, they are called as nocturnal animals. Now, plants that grow in desert are called xerophytes. Xerophytes. And they also face scarcity of water and intense heat. But now, the point is, how do desert plants adapt themselves to grow in desert? For example, cacti. Now here desert plants, they have long roots to absorb water from deep layers. Also they have a fleshy stem to store water, and they are called as succulents. They also prevent loss of water by evaporation. How? Their leaves are modified into spines. So basically, desert plants have long roots so as to absorb water from the deeper layers of soil. Secondly, they have fleshy stem. That stem performs the function of photosynthesis. To prevent the loss of water, their leaves are modified into spines. And as I told you, photosynthesis process is carried out with the help of fleshy stem. So these are the features of desert plants and animals. That is how they are well adapted to live and grow in desert. Next is components of habitat. This we will be studying in detail about biotic and abiotic components. Now, biotic, as I told you, these are the living components, and abiotic are the non living components. Okay, biotic components include plants, animals, and microorganisms, whereas abiotic components are light, water, soil, air, rocks, etc., and climatic components like light, wind, temperature, humidity, and rainfall. Now, both biotic and abiotic component of a habitat, they influence the survival of living organisms. Now, what is the role of biotic component? Means living component. Now, plants, as you all know, biotic components, they are classified as producers, consumers, and decomposers. You know, producers, plants play the role of producers because plants, they prepare their own food with the help of photosynthesis. So green plants especially, they trap solar energy. Solar energy means they take energy from sun with the help of chlorophyll, which is the green pigment present in green leaves, and they prepare their food with the help of carbon dioxide and water, and this whole process is known as photosynthesis. So green plants are called as the producers because they produce their own food. Now, animals are the consumers because animals depend upon plants for their food. Even we human beings are also dependent upon plants for our food. So, animals are classified as herbivorous, carnivorous, and omnivorous. Herbivorous are those organisms, those who eat only plant related products. For example, cows, buffaloes, horses, deer, rabbits, they are all primary consumers. Primary consumer means their food requirement basically depends upon the plants. Second is carnivorous animals. They feed on primary consumers. That's why they are called as secondary consumers, because carnivorous animals are those who feed on animals. That means they are going to eat the herbivorous animals. That is why they are called as predators, and herbivorous form their prey. Now human beings, bears, crows, they are omnivores because they eat both plant as well as animal. They eat both plant products as well as the flesh of animal. Now third category is Microorganisms are decomposers. Decomposers, producers. First, we discussed producers, plants as producers, animals as consumers, and now we are discussing about microorganisms because these are the three biotic components. Now, microorganisms basically are the decomposers. Now, what are decomposers? Let's study. Now, certain organisms like bacteria and fungi, they take nutrients from dead plants and animals. Now, whatever leftover the plants and animals are dead, these microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, they take food from dead plants and animals. They feed on dead plants and animals. They break down the bodies of dead plants and animals into simple substances, and that's why they are called as decomposers, because they basically break down the bodies of dead plants and animal into simple substances. Now, animals that feed on the dead bodies of other animals. Animals that feed on. Now, basically, decomposers are, they are breaking down the bodies of dead plants and animals into simple substances. Now, further animals are there, those who feed on dead plants and animals. They are called as scavengers. For example, vulture, hyena, and jackal, they are the examples of scavengers. Now, what is the role of decomposers? Decomposers basically, when they break down the dead plants and animals into simple substances, they are releasing the nutrients from dead organisms and convert them into usable form. So, when they break down the dead bodies of plant and animal into simple substances, they are releasing the nutrients and they are making them usable, converting them into usable form. That is called biodegradation. Now, they also help in the recycling of nutrients in the biosphere. And thirdly, they are cleaning the environment by complete disposal of remains dead remains of both plant and animals. So they are basically recycling the nutrients from the dead animals, and also they are cleaning the environment by complete disposal of dead remains of plants and animals. Now, you all know about food chain. Food chain means the flow of energy through food occurs from plants to herbivores and then to carnivore and then to finally to decomposer. This chain of transfer of energy is known as food chain. Now, this is called as a food chain. Plants as a producer, animals as consumer, microorganism as decomposer. So this is a food chain. Now, interdependence of plant and animal. This you all know, plants and animals, they depend upon each other. How? Plants prepare their own food, but they depend on animals for carbon dioxide, because plants need carbon dioxide and they release oxygen, which is needed by animals and human beings for their survival. So here, first need is of oxygen. First need is of carbon dioxide. Okay, so animals depend upon plants for oxygen, food, medicines, shade and shelter, wood, timber, cotton, gum, spices and other materials. Whereas plants depend on animals for pollination, carbon dioxide and for the dispersal of seeds. So let's discuss checkpoint 3 based on the discussion today. Animal that feed on dead bodies, scavengers. Green pigment found in the plant is chlorophyll. Release of nutrients from dead plant and animal by decomposer, that is biodegradation. And the flow of energy through food is called food chain. So that's all for today. That's all for today, and read the chapter till page number 81. Thank you and have a nice day.